Okay, good. Perfect. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first warm-up session of the ENDORSE 2025 conference. The Publications Office and together with Interoperable Europe, we are organizing the third ENDORSE conference in October in Brussels on the 8th and 9th of October. The ENDORSE stands for European Data Conference on Reference Data and Semantics. And in the lead up of this conference, we are organizing also a series of warm-up events about the common European data spaces. As we know, AI and semantic technologies play a pivotal role in the common European data spaces. And in this series, we are going to explore how interoperability supports the data spaces and also the sharing of data across borders and EU institutions and member states. So I will share my screen and we can start exploring how the sessions are going to look like. 1 second, okay, here. Okay, let me know if you see the slides. It's all okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so in the spring between April and June, we will have 5 sessions to explore the future of common European data spaces, to speak about semantic technologies, tools, interoperability solutions, and also the support services for the data spaces. So today we have our first session, but after that we will speak also about SAMIC, EU vocabularies, the data space support center, and Simple as well. And today, so we have very fine and renovated panel of speakers, and I would like to thank all of them for joining. So we will have an introduction by Janssen from DG CNECT, and then we will have 4 speakers of 4 data spaces, legal, health, public procurement, and cultural heritage data space. We will start with the health data space, so there is a small switch in the program, and we would like to have the questions and the answers after all of the sessions, so at the very end of the webinar, except for the health data space, because the speaker is going to leave after her speech. So we would like to tackle the questions after that. But for all the rest, at the very end. So first of all, I would like to give the floor for the general introduction to Janssen, who is a data policy officer at DG CNECT, Unit G1, Data Policy and Innovation. So Kun, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aniko, and good morning, everyone. Since the publication of the European Strategy for Data in 2020, the European Union has been committed to the development of a European single market for data. And the strategy specifically addresses the challenges around restricted data by promoting mechanisms for trusted data sharing and by ensuring that data holders can share the data with confidence, so also known as data sovereignty. Well, if you see here on the slide the efforts that have been undertaken on various levels. At the top on the legislation, where you find the Data Act that is about fairness in the sharing of data, the Data Governance Act that addresses the trust aspects, including the role of intermediaries. And there are also other legislation listed there, such as the Open Data Directive and the High Value Datasets Implementing Act. On the next level there, the Common European Data Spaces, which is the topic of today, you see there that the European Union has been funding initiatives in 14 different domains, and a couple of those domains will be presenting today, or the initiatives there. And that is had to stimulate the sharing of data in this European single market for data across those domains. On the right, also the high value data sets are important. Here we're talking about public sector open data. And in the meantime, for 6 selected categories, such data is being made available by the national bodies. On the next level, we see some important groups and projects that have been established. On the left, the European Data Innovation Board, which was announced in the Data Governance Act, and that oversees the overall strategy and the implementation of the legislation across member states. And on the right, a very important project, which is the Data Spaces Support Center, that's there to support all these initiatives across the various domains, share best practices, and ultimately avoid also that the data spaces become data silos. Now, and then on the bottom, we see this technical infrastructure where we find a couple of quite different aspects, standards and interoperability. I will go more in detail on the next slides there, but we have also other elements, such as the identification of legal entities, which is now part of the EIDAS 2 regulation, the smart middleware solutions, which is a topic on one of the other sessions that I saw earlier. So I had a simple project, very important, establishing technical ways to share data in a trusted way, and other aspects such as high performance computers, computing, AI factories, etc. Next slide, please. I referred to the strategy of 2020, and now we have the new mandate and the political guidelines. In the political guidelines, data sharing is still very much present, and in the political guidelines, a data union strategy is announced, and that is currently consultations on this strategy are starting, but the overall intention is to further streamline and simplify the data sharing, and very much now in light also with the ambitions that the European Union has on artificial intelligence. Next slide, please. Here is an overview. I mentioned already the funded initiatives, and this is just the list of the funded initiatives under the Digital Europe program. Some data spaces have other mechanisms, and that will become clearer, I think, with the other presentations. But just to show that a lot of activity is ongoing in all of those different domains, and all of those projects. I will not read them out one by one. Have websites and consortia, etc. So there's really a huge investment being made. Next slide, please. Taking a step back, what is a data space? Well, you can, in a very simplified manner, look at it as a framework that consists of governance rules established by a certain community, supporting services for the community, and protocols that support the exchange between parties in the data space, between the participants. There is a definition there listed, which is the result of some standardization work that we have been supporting and initiating. So the data space is an interoperable framework based on common governance principles, standards, practices, enabling services that enables trusted data transactions between participants. Now, and then, so that's the environment, data space. And what does it support? Basically, what you see on the right, the process. And the process you can look at as the discovery of data, establishing an agreement, the terms of use that the data will be shared, and then the actual usage of the data and for analytics purposes, integration, etc. As you will see on the next slides, especially in the discovery phase and in the data usage phase, semantics and reference data become very important. By the way, here also a small pitch for the Data Space Support Center. I saw Gianfranco, you're also online. Had the blueprint version 2.0 was recently published. There you will find far more knowledge and insight on how to set up data spaces. The Data Space Support Center has become a real powerhouse when it comes to data space knowledge and sharing the best practices. Next slide, please. Here is an overview of the standardization approach that we are taking. There is a standardization request in preparation, almost adopted, which is called the European Trusted Data Framework. It consists of five deliverables, and at the core is this notion of a trusted data transaction standard. And this is all about ensuring trust and data sovereignty when parties share data. Because this is, when we talk about data spaces, often not open data, but restricted data. So the trust is an essential enabler in making the sharing happen. Otherwise, there will be a lot of reluctance to share data in the first place. So that's at the core, you could say. And then there are some supporting standardization initiatives that have been that are part of the standardization request. Two of them address the semantics, the data catalog implementation framework and the semantic assets framework, and two other ones address maturity models, both of the maturity aspects. Both of the maturity of the individual players in the data space, participants, as well as of the common European data spaces as such. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, sorry, one back, please. Yeah, here, just to show a bit, projecting these 5 standardization deliverables on the earlier slide that I showed, you can see it's very much an interplay. The semantics, you can see them, for instance, vocabulary hub or other services related to semantics, data catalog profiles. They are used ultimately in the phases that you see on the right on discovery and data access and usage. And the protocols are, of course, very much about the discovery and the getting the agreement and the actual data exchange. So if you want to read more about this, the standardization request has been published on the public website of DG GROW. That's over where all the standardization requests are listed. And there is also already good work ongoing in committees such as the CNECT JTC 25 on data management, data spaces, cloud and edge. And also a new committee will be established. It will soon start its work under ETSI called TC Data. Next slide, please. And my final slide. So here to emphasize the importance of semantics and reference data, I've tried to come up with a way to a holistic view on this in this slide. As on the left, you see reference data, code list, identifiers, etc. Then in the middle there, open data, high value data sets, commonly available data. And then on the right, the data that is being shared in data spaces. And ultimately, all of those need to play together to generate value, to support use cases. And this is where the semantic standards come into play, both in the discovery as well as in the actual use of the data. So basically, the semantics standards and the reference data help to use cases come to life in data spaces. And this is my introduction. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very, very much, Coen. It was really insightful. So now, just not to lose any time, I would like to give the floor directly to the first presentation of the selected data spaces, and this is going to be about the health data space. So I give the floor to Natalia. Zylinska Puta. Okay, you already started sharing, perfect. And she is an IT team leader in DG SANTE, and she's responsible for the European health data space and the development of the IT systems. So, Natalia, over to you.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and thank you very much for invitation. So I have a pleasure today to talk about the health data space, or part of this. And as you can imagine, this is something which affects all of us, so can be close to our heart, because whenever we become the patient once in the era of digital systems, it means that our health data are registered somewhere at the level of general practitioners or hospital information system, and it means that potentially then can be annotated with the metadata and shared within the data space, and then someone can have the access to anonymized data of ours to make the bigger study and to try to maybe cure some disease or to change the future of the dealing with the illnesses. So what I would like to flag at the beginning, that there is not such a one system which is called European Health Data Space. And for that reason, on top of the Governance Data Act, there is a European Health Data Space regulation, freshly adopted in March, which actually is changing how the data, our data, are gathered, processed, and the access to them is potentially granted both to us, but also to the governments or researchers in every member state in the European Union. So we are talking about the two parts of the European health data space notion, the primary and the secondary one. The primary, it's exactly what is happening with the data which are created for us when we are receiving the treatment, and how we can have access to those data, how we can always ask someone, send them to the other provider, and how they can be exchanged between different countries when we travel. And then based off those data which are generated for the primary health, there is the discussion how they can be used on the secondary level, so in an anonymized way and pseudonymized, potentially for the development of the new medicines, new studies, or creation of the new regulation. So today I will be talking about the secondary part, which consists on three main systems at the union level, but also on more than hundreds of systems at the national level. So I will be focusing on the central platform, which is the work which we are doing now in the Commission with my team. But to show you the scope of this and how many systems are there, I would like to show you how the central platform, which is gathering the data sets about the metadata of the data which are stored at the national level about us, from where we receive those data, and how many potential data spaces are there at the national level. So in each country, as you know, we have the hospitals, we have different registries, we have general practitioners which are generating the data about us. Then with the new regulation, they are obliged to annotate those data with the metadata and send them to so-called health data access bodies, which are the new authorities, government authorities, which has to keep the registry of what type of data exists in the country. And if there are few of them in the country, there must be one coordinator, which is gathering the information about all the data sets, health data sets, and related to health data sets existing in the country. And here, for the secondary use of secondary purpose, in this portal, already researchers or the national government bodies are able to apply to get an access to the real data based on seeing just the description in metadata. So as you can imagine, none of us wants to share our data with anyone. So this is a very controlled process, and that's why for the first months before getting the access to the real data, we operate only on the metadata notion. And based on this, the decision is being taken if the researchers need potential access and if this access can be granted. And then this catalog of the data is being shared and sent by every country to our system at the union level. So we can build a catalog of the data in the whole Europe, potentially for the researchers and the studies and the decision which needs to be made on the broader group, or for the rare diseases, or for the purposes which cannot be tackled just at the national level. But on top of this, there is also the union infrastructure. So also all the registries and DGs which are gathering the data at the union level needs to have exactly the same infrastructure, which is sending the data, on which we are also working now with different entities. And there is a notion of other authorized participants from third countries or research infrastructures. And then on top of this, when the decision is being granted that the data can be used, there is an SPE, which for us means Secure Processing Environment, which is the data platform, secure one, where the real data are anonymized and pseudonymized are being sent, and the limited access of the researchers who are granted access in the decision, sign the contract and pay for this, will only have an access to this data, real catalog of data, to run the algorithms for years and then produce the study, which hopefully will help us. So the potential of data in health is huge. As you can imagine, there is a timeline on how we are working. So first, operating on the metadata, we are focusing now based on the article and derogation from our regulation on creating the health extension of the DCAT, because for us, the metadata are the most important and the only way to discover what type of health data are existing there in the Europe. So there should be granular enough and should enable researchers to find them. So DG SANTE, together with the support of CNECT and stakeholders, is working on the new technical specification. Then, of course, when we have them, we need to have member states to create those data on every single level. This is the reason why we have already produced the first validator in the interoperability testbed, so everyone who tries to produce it can check it if they comply with the technical specification. Then we are going to implement the chatbot, AI chatbot, which will help everyone to create the properties, because as you can imagine, it's not so easy to understand health DCAT and DCAT itself. So we want to support everyone to speak their language, so the process is easier. And only then, when the data are discovered, there is a dataset catalog, the data permits are being granted, we can start talking about the searches with using the AI chatbots on the real data, because we will know what the researchers are requesting, what is important to share, and in which secure processing environments they have an access to those data. Because the secure processing environments are the only place where the AI models and algorithms are being run on the data, and those models are learning. So by directing as many users as possible to the same secure processing environments, we will be able to achieve the final goal, which is to allow models to study. But as you can see, the path is long, and we need to start from the very beginning. So first, at the national level, the data needs to be correctly created with the high quality, otherwise they simply will not be possible to discover. So for this point, we have developed the central platform, the system where we will host this dataset catalog created from the metadata from different member states. So as I said, again, we have a national data holder system, which is preparing and providing metadata records, such as hospital. Then potentially at every country, they are sending these data sets based on regulation to the health data at EU Health Data Access Body portal. If they are few in the country, for example, when there is a federated country, then there is a coordinator portal who must connect through the national contact point. This is also in our regulation, with the central platform and send the data, metadata to us. So this exchange is happening through the e-delivery and AS4 connectors. And of course, we have a standardized message type, so we know what we are receiving and from whom. And the same process is happening exactly for the union entities. So this central platform we have already developed and make available as an open source release free. Here you can see some filters and searches and the database based on the test data accustomed to the new health draft health DCAT, their detailed descriptions. And why we have shared what we have done as an open source? Because as I showed you, every single member state would have to duplicate very similar functions. And why is that? Is because the health, as you know, is in the competences in the member states. So first we need to unlock the possibility to gather the data at the national level, make them discoverable based on how those data are being created for the primary health, based on the standards and interoperability which is used in the country, not to break it, and then to some extent to unify it in other systems which we are building under this European health data space for the primary health, so they can be still interoperable at the union level. So as every single member state must develop something similar, we decided that what we are doing in the Commission level must be reusable. So our member states can download it and reuse it, or they can run the system and notice that, no, this solution doesn't work for us. And for that reason, we will use something else and we will save the time not to trying this different infrastructure. So 27 March, we released the first open source, and now we will be doing this every 4 months because we will finish this system in 9 releases. So in 2026, we will move to production. Now it's still in the acceptance environment, and I shared with you the link to check it. And afterwards, we will start connecting the nodes. In the next release of the open source, we are planning to try, we already implemented, actually it's almost done, the multilingual platform. So when the member states and other entities are downloading the system, they can see it in their own language, because now the regulation was also translated officially. And we will add the autonomous test in the interoperability test bed, so the whole national implementation can be autonomously tested with the central platform, because as you can see, it would be a lot of members in the future. So from the beginning, we want to set the good standards to do it, that we are sure that the metadata which we are receiving, they are validated, they are they are coming in the correct format, and then we know what to do with them. And the same with the data from the applications which we are sending. And then we will continue with our implementation to get to the point when we created the dataset catalog with metadata. The researchers, governments, and other bodies which are explicitly listed in the regulation then can request the access to those data. These applications can be assessed at the national level by the relevant governance bodies. And if the decision is granted that yes, this study, this work is needed for our goodness, then the real data are being transferred to the secure processing environment, and then the secure access is being granted to a limited number of people, and the algorithm can run, and the better studies can be created to help us unlock the greatness which the data brings with them. So I would say that it's in the really nutshell, and I would ask you if you have any questions to me.
Thank you very, very much, Natalia. I see that there are a few questions in the chat, so we can take a look on to those. But maybe if someone would like to ask them live, just raise your hands and then you can start asking. Yeah, Dermo?
Good morning. Thank you very much for your presentations. Tell me a bit about the economic pull-through of this. Who's going to pay for this data chain? So, for example, say I'm somebody who wants to procure a large data set, maybe from multiple EU countries. I turn up where and I pay what? Maybe talk me through that.
You cannot procure the data set. If you want to have an access to the health data, there is a very limited number explicitly mentioned in the regulation who can have an access and for what reasons. And then you need to find those data sets, then you need to fill in the application which will be harmonized at the European level, and then there will be assessment of this application by the national bodies. Of course, this is the process which might be charged. And only then, if they decide that you comply with the regulation and can have access to those data, you will receive them. So there is not such thing like procuring health data. that they are there for the greater reason, no? So it's very limited number of entities who can get the access to them.
Now, this I understand, but who's going to pay the hospital, the public hospital, to pull out that data and clean it and structure it and provide it in a way that metadata can be applied to it so it can actually be found? That's quite a bit of work.
Yeah, this is the main as this is the one of the main priorities on the President von der Leyen. The resources and funds are being secured in the different funds now. So as you can imagine, the regulation was agreed with member states, and by this, all of them decided that this is the greater good. So the funds needs to be distributed also at the national level from national budget. After the COVID situation, we know what are the repercussions when we don't invest in health, but also they will come from the different funds from the European Union, and they are already flowing there. No, this is happening, so it's not the future. This is happening already.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, there is one more question from Irena. Do you still have time for that, Natalia, for one more question?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect. So Irena, yes, please go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much for this presentation. I'm Irena Pavlova. I'm from GATE Big Data and AI Center of Excellence in Bulgaria. And we are running VALES project, which is piloting regional smart health data space in Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, and Cyprus, actually. So we are trying to figure out how to map the European health data space regulation and the current developments that have been discussed in the previous presentation, like the blueprint 2.0 developed by the Data Space Support Center. So my question is, in this relation, how these two map actually, and what is the common ground between these?
I cannot answer to your question, Irena, because I haven't read the document which you are mentioning.
My question is a kind of a more general, because there are other developments for the European data spaces, and the European health data space seems a bit disattached to them. So are you having...
I would not say that the European health data space is disattached. European health data space, it's one of the first which is being analyzed in the simple, which we will be also discussing.
Yeah.
The feasibility study was done. We are reusing the similar technical stack. So we are in the contact, and as you have seen in the first slide of Coen, there is a reason why some of the data spaces have such a specific data that they have their own regulation and their own way to govern and manage the data. And if they are not the data which are available, easily accessible, as you can imagine, no one would like to share your health record with random people or to have them procured. Then it was decided by the commissioners and the member states that health data must be treated a bit differently, no? But the same regulations apply to some extent, and only our regulations is usually giving more restrictions to this. But when it comes to the technology stack, it's the same. Therefore, we are here discussing DCAT for metadata and in extension to health DCAT, or using other different tools. No? So I could refer you to the documents which we have just published with the open source, and you can analyze them and see how it complies to the other work. No?
Thank you very much for this, and it's great that you've been collaborating with Simple as well. Yeah, that answers perfectly my question. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see that there are some other questions as well in the chat, but I believe we need to move on to allow some time also for the other presenters. So thank you very much, Natalia, and then we will collect the questions. Maybe you can even we will send it to you. You can reply them individually as well. Okay, so I will continue sharing. And let's move on to the legal data space and the presentation by Žilvinas Bubnys from the Publications Office. He's the Deputy Head of Unit of Data Operations and Enrichment Services. And he's a legal expert passionate about IT, and he's seeking to make the EU data accessible and understandable for everyone. So Žilvinas, the head, yes, it's for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for organizing this webinar. And today I'll present what is happening at the Publications Office and beyond in relation to European legal data space. So what is the purpose of a legal data space? Formally, it aims to make legislative and case law data accessible across EU, reusable, and interoperable. This means that such data can be used to support decision-making, research, and the development of new legal tools. And who it is for? Not just for legal professionals or national administrations, but also for researchers, tech developers, and even the general public. So the goal is ambitious. And the next logical question is, what exactly can we do to achieve it? And in practice, we're dealing with two types of legal data. One is EU-level legal data and national-level legal data from member states. And this distinction matters. For EU legal data, the Publication Office has a mandate, and we can directly develop and implement technical solutions, while for member state data, our role is a bit different. We can suggest, guide, and support, but we cannot much impose. Next slide, please. And this is where standards become essential. As many of you know, Publication Office has been developing and maintaining common standards, ontologies, protocols, formats in the legal domain. And you can see some of them here on the slide. Some are specific to law, while others are more general and used in other assets too. And our work focuses on three things: promoting these standards across the European Union, then collecting and describing legal data resources, data sets in one place, and building tools that make use of these standards. So where are we now? Next slide, please. So it's actually a perfect moment for this presentation because we have just launched in March 2025 a new landing page for the legal European data space. And this page describes key resources for European legal data space. This is a work in progress, but we have already taken a first very concrete, tiny step. Next slide. So we published a data set that lists all the official legislation databases from EU and its 27 member states in human accessible format, HTML. And creating this data set reminded us of how diverse the national legal systems are. Some member states still rely on publishing close. Others have advanced online systems with very rich metadata and modern legal portals. And when it comes to case law, the picture is even more fragmented. While legislation is now available online in every country, case law, it's not always accessible in the same way. And all this confirms just how important it is to keep promoting common standards. And this data set is only the beginning. So what comes next? Next slide, please. So this is a timeline, what we are intending to do in the near future. So in April, we expect to have EU law data dump service, meaning allowing to download entire collection of EU law for machine processing. Then later we will describe EU member states legal resources that are accessible not for humans but for machines. So we'll describe the protocols and API access points and formats for machine access. Then we intended to do the same for case law. Then the next step, which concerns ELI standard, we will extend the ELI search beyond 3 member states, which we have now in a pilot phase, and I'll show it a bit later. And then later we also implemented a new ELI-based search features. Then we intending more enrich our legal content, EU legal content, by introducing semantic meaning of a legal act content within the act itself, and following a metadata at subdivision level for each and every EU legal act which is being newly published. Next slide, please. And along these milestones, we also run these continuous activities. And then one point cannot be emphasized enough. The success of legal data space depends on the implementation of the common standards across the EU. So standards are everywhere. Next slide, please. So where we are with these standards. For example, if we take ELI, so this is how ELI is implemented across the member states. So we have 19 member states that have implemented ELI to some extent, but ELI has several pillars, and only when you implement it entirely up to 4 pillars, you can have quite interesting sophisticated features. For example, federated search, which allows you to search across the law of different member states. And we are running this prototype now on 3 member states, Luxembourg, Spain, and Portugal. And we are intending to extend it even further than other countries which have already implemented Pillar 4 will be introduced into this search system, and other countries when will join the Pillar 4, then they could be also introduced in this search. Next slide, please. And just another overview of another common standard, ECLI, which is European Case Law Identifier. Here again, we have a very similar case where we have 18 EU member states on board. And yes, next slide, please. So I encourage you to visit our new landing page for European Legal Data Space, explore the dataset and other resources which I mentioned there, and feel free to reach us with any questions or ideas. And I believe we will have a question-answer session at the end of this presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Žilvinas. Yes, so now we will move on for the next presentations, and then we can tackle the questions and the answers at the end. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so our next presenter is going to be Marc Schmidt from DG GROW. He's a policy officer and a team leader in DG GROW, and his team is in charge of e-forms, the European Single Procurement Document, and e-certis, and most importantly, the public procurement data space that is going to be the subject of his presentation now. So, Marc, Christopher, over to you.
Many thanks, Aniko. Yeah, why do we need the public procurement data space? The public bodies in Europe, they spend actually, and that is not here now, it says 2 trillion euros, it's by now, it's 2.5 trillion euros every year, which means 15% of GDP are spent through public procurement. So public procurement has a lot of power on how markets actually evolve. They procure things on infrastructure, education, energy, waste, health, and social protection, and actually many, many more. The data that we have through the central platform, Tenders Electronic Daily, which is operated by the Publications Office, has roughly 20% of the procurement notices. That means that 80% of the notices are residing in the systems of the member states in various formats. On the next slide, you will see what the benefits are from the PPDS. We will have, through the PPDS, actually more access to more procurement data, so not only from TED, but also from member states. The PPDS is publicly available, or the dashboards are publicly available, which will certainly help the monitoring of public procurement in Europe. It will reinforce transparency. We aim very heavily to improve the data quality, which is very much needed, and something that I think is really great about the public procurement data space. It's actually a great tool which allows the collaboration between member states and us. On the next slide, you will see the state of play. As I said, the PPDS not only has data from TED, but we also started to connect member states. We have already 4 countries connected: Norway, Finland, Germany, and Austria. There is currently a TSI project, so a technical support instrument project, where member states can be funded, which aims at connecting 5 more countries in the coming 2 years. Portugal, Italy, Cyprus, Slovakia, and Latvia. And I actually expect already now we have other member states who say they're interested in sharing their data with the public procurement data space. So I expect actually that in 3 to 4 years, we have all the member states connected to the PPDS. On the next slide, you see the current use cases that we follow with the public procurement data space. We have some dashboards to monitor the public procurement market. We have dashboards on data quality, which is really important. And we also have a dashboard on strategic procurement. Strategic procurement means information about if a procurement procedure is green, social, or innovative. On the next slide, you will see how the PPDS actually works. Because we are here in a semantic meeting, workshop, I wanted to raise a little bit to say how we are actually working with the data. So what you can see here is that we have on the left side several data sources from TED and from the member states. We transform all the data into the e-procurement ontology. The e-procurement ontology is managed also by the Publications Office. And with this, we actually have PPDS knowledge graph. So all the data that we have in the PPDS are knowledge graph data, so linked data. And we provide different services around it. We have the main purposes currently business analytics and data quality. We will also add the possibility to access the data. One of the biggest advantages using an ontology is it allows us to harmonize the data from wherever the source is to a concrete data model, which is very important when we want to analyze the data. What we saw in the past, and I think all the data space or all the data sources will have usually the problem that there are multiple standards, or not even standards, but that the data is available in different formats. Having an ontology is critical to have a common understanding of the concepts that are relevant for a specific domain. And the procurement ontology is a project that is going on now for, I would say, roughly 8 years already. And it is a massive amount of work. It not only covers procurement notices, it also covers invoicing and ordering, etc. So I think in the future, the procurement ontology will play a very critical role in the domain of public procurement. Something that I want to say about artificial intelligence. Having a knowledge graph is good and bad at the same time when it comes to artificial intelligence, because most of the LLMs are very good with unstructured information, but they are not good with structured information, especially when it comes to a knowledge graph. Because what an LLM does is it vectorizes the data. So it says that two terms are close together, so you can use it to the terms are together, but there is no need actually for a knowledge graph, because in the knowledge graph the data is directly linked with subject, predicate, object. But most of the LLMs are not able to work with this. So I hope that we will find a way to make really best use of the knowledge graph that we have when it comes to artificial intelligence. I see there is a question which says, regarding ELDS, is there a plan to include OSIS standards? Actually, I don't know the standard. Maybe you want to explain what it is?
No, it was for Žilvinas, actually, the question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay, then we can maybe it can be answered then from the colleague. If we go to the next slide, you see that we make massive use of controlled vocabularies. We actually have more than 60 controlled vocabularies, which is very, very, very important to achieve consistency of the data that we have. So we try really to reduce text elements where someone can just provide anything, and to make more use of controlled vocabularies that are also managed by the Publications Office, so from Anniko's team. And we make use of this in the procurement notices, but also, of course, in the e-procurement ontology. Something that we will, for example, add is when it comes to data quality, a very important aspect, unique identifiers. So we have, of course, organizations, buyers and suppliers in the notices, but they are very difficult to uniquely identify. Because sometimes, even though the member states might have a unique identifier, they don't use this. And what we will do is, in the future, to provide also a controlled vocabulary for all the countries to provide the different ways of how regular expressions on how identifiers can look like in the different member states. And we will make this available so that if a buyer says for a supplier, this is a supplier, and they have to provide a unique identifier, that they have to also select what type it is. And I think the concept of controlled vocabularies is, if it is not used for other initiatives, I think it's certainly something that you should look into. And I think I'm almost done. If you go to the next slide. Yes, you see, I'm done. So many thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Marc Christopher. So yes, for the questions, we will tackle them at the end. We will have time to take all of them, I hope. And now we move on with the Cultural Heritage Data Space and the presentation by Antoine Isaac, who is working at the Europeana Foundation. And he has been researching and implementing semantic web and link data techniques in the Cultural Heritage Data Space. So Antoine, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anniko, and good morning, everyone. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak at this warm-up event. Yeah, so today I'm going to well, to give a bit of introduction to the cultural heritage data space and well, a bit of a story, making clear what there is on the table now and what we're moving towards. At the moment, the main, let's say, embodiment of the cultural heritage data space is Europeana, which is a service and well, actually a network of organizations from the cultural heritage sector. So we do have a number of data providers, which are museums, libraries, archives. They provide metadata and links to digitized content, which are hosted within their premises, and this is then managed and processed by other organizations that are called aggregators, which gather the data from a specific country or domain. So that can be fashion, archaeology, music, and so on. And that forms the beginning of a data space, one could say, where metadata is shared and put available. And next slide, please. So as a result of this effort, we provide access to over 60 million objects that come from 3,700 museums, libraries, and archives. So there is this website at europeana.eu that allows one to search within all those collections. So we can go to the next slide, and we'll see a bit what it looks like. Yeah, so here's well, here you can see some books, some paintings, some engravings, Also physical items like this plate in the middle. So we have to handle data that is quite diverse. Next, please. And well, I want to make clear that we have this service at Europeana.eu, but actually the website is not the only side of the service, because the essential part of it is a set of APIs that gives access to the data and to anyone who would need programmatic exploitation of the metadata, and then to be able to fetch the digitized content. And actually, our web portal is one of the customers of those APIs. In fact, so basically, the offer of data via APIs is the key service at Europeana.eu. Next slide, please, Aniko. But that's the current state, and in terms of the data space vision, one could say it's a bit centralized in many respects. Actually, the data itself is not centralized because most of the content, the GSI collection, still exist within our partners' websites or systems, or sometimes actually they have some beginnings of data spaces that we connect to. But still, the flow of the metadata and the way it is served, that's still a bit one directional. And what we have started to do is to try to to have the data flow in more directions, so to say, to have more consumers of the data, to have more services that are on the data to be accessible within what would qualify as maybe a more complete data space. So yeah, we are starting to see the emergence of some services that are not strictly speaking Europeana.eu and which can be used by the participants of this nascent data space to enhance their collections without necessarily having to participate into this one directional flow that currently feeds into Europeana.eu. We are also going to consider other types of data. So for the moment, Europeana has been very much focused on, well, let's say, collections of individual objects to provide this service to really make as much as possible these rich data and digitized objects available to everyone. But we know that there are other types of data in the cultural heritage sector which can be very relevant for data users and which are not necessarily with the same granularity or the same open access conditions. So we are also looking at those proposed frameworks for data transactions, for example, that are being put forward in the data space context. So this is looking at what kind of evolution is happening right now. But this is going to be, and then on the next slide, I would still like to come back to the essential, whether for the existing infrastructure and service or for the ones that we are currently designing and developing. Semantics still are at the very center of everything we do, and that should happen. Many years ago, we have made a video that explains how Europeana wanted to implement linked data for cultural heritage, why we believe this was very useful for the sector as a whole, and especially for the kind of initiative that we are embarking on. So that video is still available. So if you see the slides later, you can click on the link and enjoy those 3 minutes of linked data promotion. I'm not going to play it now because that would be too much with respect to our schedule. But I really really want to insist on the fact that, yeah, it's been several years that that we've embarked on that, and we still are committed to this, and we believe that in the context of a more complete, richer data space, it's still going to be super important. And on the next slides, I have some examples of how semantics play a key role for us. So it starts with the data model that we're using for gathering information about all those collections. So this data model, from the start, it tries to make distinction between the cultural heritage object and all the context around them, and that context can take the form of vocabularies, like here. So we've got a harpsichord, and well, it is described with some metadata like a title or description, but it also has a type, which is not a simple string, but an instance of a concept from a controlled vocabulary represented as linked data, and that gives us more semantics and more multilingual information, which is very good for offering the kind of richer service that we are after. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this data modeling actually exemplifies that semantic interoperability can and needs to happen at many levels, and we try to keep track of those levels in what we do in the cultural heritage data space. So it begins with the ontology level. So the data model itself tries to be aligned with some key models in our sectors or in other sectors. So we use things like the core elements or the SCOS standard for controlled vocabularies that's developed by W3C. Of course, we also look at some models and we reuse them, like DCAT and ODRL, which are bound to play a crucial role in data spaces. So that's for the level of the ontology. Then on the next slide, we've got the level of the controlled vocabularies. Well, I won't read all of that, but actually a bit like the previous presentation, I wanted to highlight that we make extensive use of vocabularies that are available as linked data. So we get them. Actually, one of the channels we are getting them from is the provider's metadata. So very often our data partners, they already use some vocabularies, and we tell them, well, please try to give them to us using their linked data URI so that we can connect to the data services and we can fetch the data, and that simplifies their work, and at the same time that gives more value along the entire data chain. So this what you see on the screen is the vocabularies that are being, let's say, harvested when we receive the original metadata. And I've seen a message popping up saying that Wikidata is not on the list. Actually, it is. So the list is not complete. But in fact, those vocabularies that we're getting, they are connected to Wikidata, and we also have our own enrichment, which I'm not going to explain for lack of time, but that one uses Wikidata. So in the end, what we do is a sort of knowledge graph, well, at the data modeling level with the interoperability or with all those ontologies, but also at the level of vocabularies, because we have vocabularies coming from our providers and vocabularies that are coming from third parties, maybe a bit richer, multilingual, and we try to connect all that in a knowledge graph, basically. Next slide, please. Yeah, and because we're talking about data spaces and the possibility to have other services that may not be strictly connected to the Europeana one. Actually, the examples I'm going to present are connected to the Europeana one, but they can be used separately. And those services, they also use the kind of controlled vocabulary that that we mentioned that are available as linked data. So we've got one of our partner project called AI for Culture, and they try to develop and promote some services that use AI for the cultural sector. And one of them is color detection. So, and what they do is, well, to apply state-of-the-art AI color detection, but it goes a bit beyond in terms of connection to a cultural heritage data space, because their result comes from a vocabulary of colors that was developed in the context of a fashion project, which is, well, first that comes with multilingual information, which is good, but also it comes with some kind of human validation. So it's not like any point in a very vast color palette. It's a set of color that has been judged to be relevant for some specific collections and some specific applications. And yeah, so it has multilingual information. You can also see, if you've got good eyes, that it has a link to Wikidata. So if somebody in our sector would use this service, then they would produce data which would be which can be integrated in this vast knowledge graph. And on the next slide, I've got another example of one such parallel data service, which also comes back to this aspect of control and trust that we need to have in the data and in the vocabularies. So this one is from a project called Debias, and they have developed within the metadata that's around in the cultural heritage sector. So on the left part of the screen, you can see actually a bit what it looks like when that service has been applied and displayed on the Europeana.eu portal. So this is, well, the object is a pair of boots, and the title mentioned tribe, which is in some context contentious, and we have a tooltip that pops up and explains why this could be contentious. Well, the interesting thing, no, it's not the only interesting thing, but maybe for the audience of the coming ENDORSE conference, one of the interesting things is that this service actually works with a controlled vocabulary that was developed in the project that really tries to identify in a controlled and trustable way those possibly contentious terms. And that vocabulary happens to be hosted in the Workbench instance that's maintained by the publications office. Yeah, we're also exemplifying the synergies that can happen within all the actors in this this community that we are part of. Yes, and well, actually, I think one of the persons who work also on this project, Christina Rose, is in the participants. So yeah, we are probably very interested in your questions. But if Nico presses on the next slide button, then I have this little animation that actually says that I don't want to tell too much about this project, because this is actually one of the presentations that's going to happen at the coming ENDORSE conference later in the year. So here's a bit of a little teaser for that presentation in the conference. So I would like to thank you, everyone, and we'll be ready to take any question. And yeah, I would like to thank you for the little chat pop-ups I've seen. I've seen the link to the video being shared, so that's really great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Antoine. And I leave actually this slide as for the discussion, and indeed, so ENDORSE is mentioned, so the whole project is going to be explained further there. And thank you all of the mentions of the publications office as well, so the services, of the data, of the vocabularies that we are publishing. Okay, so now I think we can open the floor for questions. We have actually quite some time for them, so we can tackle them. Maybe we can give the priority to the audience. So of course, please raise your hand if you would like to ask anything, and then of course we can also refer to the chat for the remaining questions that were left unanswered. Okay, here, so just to monitor a bit better the audience. Good. Okay, so Cosimo.
Thank you for the word, Aniko, and thank you for the presentation, Antoine. I would like to ask if currently are there any challenges at Europeana regarding AI, so the implementation of artificial intelligence in all your usual tasks, and if there are some new tasks, new challenges also that are born, so to say, thanks to AI. I'm particularly interested in the dimension of narrative generation, and everything goes in this direction. Is there something going on?
Thank you for the question. This is very very relevant indeed. I am afraid that in terms of generation of narratives, I do not have much to tell you. I know that this is being explored and actually done in some partner projects, but that's not necessarily within the core service. So this is the sort of thing that that would happen on the side for the core service. We do have some use of AI, and that's well, chiefly focused on the, let's say, everything that makes the data better discoverable and better accessible, so to say. So I mean, I'm not going to say that narratives are not useful for accessibility, but in general, we look at requirements that are maybe lower level, like translation, for example. Yeah, we had some European projects that helped us with some automatic translation to enable better multilingual search. We have all those efforts on semantic enrichment, so trying to make the metadata work better, let's say, by connecting it to the control vocabularies like the ones I've presented. So those ones are, I mean, those services generally use some kind of AI. It's not necessarily the well, let's say the most fancy generative AI, but still it's kind of AI. We have some efforts using automatic transcriptions of text, subtitling. Also, we have applied a bit of image enhancement services for when the quality of the images that we received was very low. So that sort of stuff. So well, obviously I could say many more things about each of those topics, but I don't know if that would fit the time. So maybe we should do this only if there are no other questions. I mean, Cosimo, is it okay for you?
Yes, it's okay. You answered, and then of course the rest should be deepened in another context. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, other questions before we go to the chat? Also to the other speakers, of course, so to Marc, Christopher, to Žilvinas, who didn't get any yet. Yeah. Vasilis?
Yes, I have thank you very much for all the presentations, of course. I have a question for the health data space. I've heard that they are preparing a chatbot for users to have access to the profile of DCAT EP, if I'm not mistaken. I would like to hear some more information about this and what's the timetable for it, if you have this kind of information.
I think Natalia already left because she had another meeting at the same time.
Okay. Then I will.
So maybe we can ask her in private, or if anyone else has this information, I don't know, from the SANTE, if there are any participants or the ones involved in the health data space. but if not, then I think we have to ask her yes, separately.
Okay, thank you.
From the chat, there was one question, I think, directed to Žilvinas about the legal data space. What is the plan to make sure that the actors have the necessary technical and legal expertise?
Let me see it.
It was at 10:37. If you can scroll back to the chat, because you already.
Okay, what's the plan to make sure that actors have a necessary? I'm just wondering what is meant by the actors, because what we do when we encourage the member states to implement the standards, the formats, the new technologies, so we can provide support to a certain extent, but normally they do have their own experts. And what else can be these actors? I don't know. That's
okay. I don't know
can this question be clarified?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if the person is still with us who asked the question in the chat, so then maybe they can provide more context to this, but I don't see. Okay. Okay, thank you. Good. Then what else? I'm just trying to scroll the questions. Are there any other questions from the audience for now? So please raise your hands. We still have 10 minutes to tackle them. Okay. Good. Okay. In the meantime, there were some questions about the presentation and the recording to be shared. So of course, we are going to share them on the website of the follow-up events. I already replied, I think, to the first question about that. So we will upload it to our YouTube channel of the Publications Office and then share the recording in the on the website, and as well as the slides. Yeah. Okay, then Mihai and Ivo as well, they have some questions. So I don't know if you want to ask them in person, or shall I read them out? It's also fine both ways. Okay, from Mihai, the engagement with member states is that is the most challenging part. And what are the ways to find out how to engage them? So I think it can be for all of you, all of the speakers. If you have any thoughts on that, please just tell, or any experience maybe, if you are collaborating with member states. Yes.
For the public human data space, we have, of course, our connections to the member states, and because it's in the domain of public procurement, we know them for many, many years, and there's a kind of a, I would say, trust relationship between us. So yeah, I think it is important when you have any kind of project, also any other data spaces, is to have a good relationship, a collaborative approach with the member states. So, and we have community meetings, so we have various ways of how we are communicating with the member states. Maybe one thing is that when I said for the public human data space, there is no legal basis for the member states to connect to the PPDS, but because we have a good relationship with the member states, they are very much interested in joining the PPDS. So they could have also said, we are not interested, but it's actually the opposite. So most of them are really very much interested to join the PPDS.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Marc. Then one question from Ivo to all presenters. To what extent you use or plan to use linked data for the data? The explanation is that it was clear that you use linked data for the metadata, PPDS also for the data, but what about the others?
So maybe I can jump in and bring a bit of clarification. Actually, for the cultural heritage data space, the metadata is actually the data. because when we say metadata about cultural heritage object, it's actually not metadata at the dataset level, as is, let's say, first thought in the context of the data space. So in fact, what Europeana has done is to have this deep dive into the metadata as datasets, so as to provide the service. So I reckon this is not easy to explain, but actually, yeah, we applied linked data to the data already. Then we don't apply linked data when the data would be digitized content, because, well, those are images or full text. So I hope this somehow gives an answer from the perspective of our data space.
Okay, thank you, Antoine. Then there was already one more question, but it was replied by Fulgencio. Then, okay, I still see two hands, but I think they were just not lowered. Can it be Vasilis and Cosimo, maybe?
No,
Okay, thank you. Good, thank you. Okay, all right. Okay, you can also take a look to the chat. I would like to encourage the speakers, and if there is anything that you would still like to comment that was not tackled yet, please, yeah, go on. Okay, there is one more comment on the last question about cultural heritage from Gianfranco. So, if the cultural heritage data space data is the metadata, why do you need the complexity of the data space? Is the metadata confidential or protected by some constraints that can be managed with an open data license?
So this is an excellent question, Gianfranco. So I would say, so our data sets currently are made of metadata, but first, that doesn't remove the interest of having metadata about the collections. So being a bit more general than the object level, and that's going to become really more important when we adopt more and more this data space vision, because not all consumption of the data should happen in terms of, oh yeah, give me an individual object or a selection or sample of individual objects. There are some data consumption cases that are for full data sets, like, okay, give me everything from the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam or something like that. And there can also be some other data sets in our sector, and I think I mentioned that very quickly next to the slide on the evolution towards a richer data space. There are some other data sets that we know exist that are not made of metadata, and we want to adapt our services to be able to cope for those ones. Actually, we already have some, like full text of newspapers. We do have that, but it's still on the side, and we would like to generalize this sort of data offer. Also to react to what you say in the comment about the licenses. Indeed, the licenses that would be needed to access this sort of new data could be quite different from the collection metadata that we have been handling so far. So which is why we're also interested in looking at all the vocabularies to express data transactions, because there are things now that we are looking at for which the scenarios for accessing them will be quite different. So I hope this answers your question.
Thank you. And I see that also Fulgencio maybe wants to comment on this.
Yeah, I want to complement Antoine's answer. I would like to say that the Europeana started as a request from the member states, and that means that the data remains in the museums at the request of the member states of the European Union. So it was, since the beginning, it was designed as that. And the data spaces are only a way to show how this can be centralized via a single place with the metadata and the links to the content, let's say, to separate what is data about content and metadata about the data. It was designed like that. That doesn't prevent that it is different for some data sets or in the future. There is another question from Ismail, how they can build a Wikimedia movement aggregator for Europeana data space. That I don't think it is a bad idea, but we would need to discuss about that, because it's as far as the data is coming from Europe, it's totally okay. We will need just to discuss how to aggregate and how to set up such an aggregator. That is what I wanted to say. I see that there are new questions. We generally look at it in terms of museums and art objects, but what about literary works? Indeed, there is a discussion ongoing about books and other literary works. We are working on that, but there is a strong issue there, which is the copyright. So if you are referring to those literary works that are out of copyright and or digitized by Google at the beginning of the century, that they agreed with museums and libraries and so on, that is a possibility, and that we are studying it. It is not yet covered, but we are on it. Ismail, actually, please send an email to send an email to Aniko, and then she will forward it to me, and I will put you in contact with the people, and we will discuss it internally. I will contact with the people of the Europeana Foundation who can answer this as well.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. So just please get in touch. I will put all the links to the chat now. So first of all, of the website of the follow-up events and of the conference as well. So okay, they are here. Good. So stay tuned for that series. For the next events, we are going to announce them on the website, but of course all the other possible channels on social media and everywhere else that you found out about this one as well. And then I will put our functional mailbox in the chat. Okay. And here you can contact us for any other questions and also for the contacts. Okay, so thank you very, very much for all of the presenters and for all of the participants as well for this warm-up session of ENDORSE. We really appreciate the discussions and the context, the discussions of the challenges as well. So see you at the next event, and thank you very much.